Unthinkable happened in Tunisia and Egypt, and almost we've been looking for the next country that would come.
That's right. And it's
We're expecting it should happen quicker.
We should happen quicker. I don't think we should have expected it to happen quicker, in part because this is a regime that's not going to lay low. It's going to take every means it has at its disposal to counterattack, to show defiance. And if that means bombing civilians with planes, it would do it. If it means gunning down people on street battles, it would do it. And so I'm 2 hours into the reaction to the speech, a part of me is sort of reconfiguring my own thoughts on what is likely to unfold in the next few days. But make no mistake about it, this is a regime right now that has lost much of its internal legitimacy and increasingly its external legitimacy. So it's battling for its life on all fronts. That must make it nervous, must make it extremely desperate. But precisely, those are the moments where it makes it very dangerous.
What do you make of international reaction? And I'm not so much looking at you in Security Councils and you in Human Rights Councils, etc. Arab world reaction?
Muted, but increasingly more open.
But why does it always take so long, it seems, to get strong reaction from the Arab world to things that happen in their own backyard?
Two reasons. One, the countries that we're expecting to react are countries that may not have an interest in the kind of transformation we're seeing elsewhere in the Arab world. Toppling autocrats, revolutions by the people to unseat regimes that have been in power for so long. Most Arab governments in power today view these with extreme hesitation, if not outright fear. So that will translate itself into the public fora, into diplomatic channels. I'm actually quite impressed that no one expressed any objections at the UN Human Rights Council today to the proposal or the ideas that were passed, and that in fact we were told...
I think maybe they realize the lines are drawn so sharply, forgive this phrase, in the sand here, that you know where the right and wrong side of it is.
Absolutely. This is a case where there is a clear and present human rights violations, and no one should stand in that way. There's another reason, I think, where the Arab world is a bit hesitant about this. How would governments in the region right now feel about a remaking of the Arab system as we've known it in the last 50 years? You've got about 100 million Arabs now that have tasted or have experienced the taste of a revolution with all sorts of different slogans, dreams, aspirations. You've got still about 150 million more Arabs. That puts the Arab world essentially at a crossroads of a battle within, a battle for the future of the Arab world, the ideas and the slogans and the Arab order that will prevail.
Tariq Youssef from the Brookings Institute, thank you for your time and your thoughts. Really appreciate it. Want to look now, though, at the day's events in their entirety in Libya. Nadim Baba has this report.
Gunfire in Tripoli as the fight for Libya's capital intensifies. Film it, they shout, as security forces loyal to Muammar Gaddafi fire on protesters. These pictures were filmed after Friday prayers. Anti-government demonstrators converged on the capital from towns all around. Several people were reportedly killed. Libya's leader has claimed the protesters across the country are influenced by both Al-Qaeda and hallucinogenic drugs. On Friday, he appeared in front of a crowd of supporters in Green Square, again blaming outside forces for the unrest.
I am among the public. We will continue to fight. We will defeat them. We will die here on the dear soil of Libya. We will defeat any foreign attempt as we defeated the former Italian imperialism.
How much of this he believes is anyone's guess. Despite these pictures, Gaddafi officials admit large parts of Libya are now controlled by his opponents. What is clear is Gaddafi won't be pushed aside easily. This sermon shown on state television pressing home the message.
As the Prophet Messenger said, if you dislike your ruler or his behaviors, you should not raise your sword against him, but be patient, for those who disobey the rulers will die as infidels.
All the while, the violence claims more victims. Al Jazeera was interviewing one man from Tripoli describing the street fighting when this happened live on air.
Gun erupted and random firing against us started.
We're told that some people have died in those clashes. Do you know anything about any deaths?
Hello? Give me your phone, give me your phone. Give me your phone. You cannot speak to Al Jazeera. You cannot speak to Al Jazeera. Give me this phone.
That sounds like our guest has been intercepted by a member of the security forces who has just taken his phone off, and we don't know what happened there, but somebody was clearly yelling at him to give them the phone. Are you still there? Are you still there, sir?
Despite the censorship, people in the capital must surely know they're being egged on by other towns across Libya. Thousands have again taken to the streets of Benghazi in the east, firmly under opposition control, hoping Gaddafi's stronghold will soon fall. The protesters' momentum is being kept up by a steady stream of Colonel Gaddafi's loyalists deserting him.
What happened and is happening are massacres and bloodshed never witnessed by the Libyan people. The logic of power and violence is being imposed instead of seeking democratic, free, and mutual dialogue. And because what is happening in Libya today is against the principles of truth and justice, which I believe in, I therefore confirm my resignation from the post of the chief prosecutor in Libya.
It remains unclear exactly how many soldiers Gaddafi has at his disposal in the capital to protect him. Those who want him out are close, though, perhaps very close. Nadeem Barber, Al Jazeera.
So much of what we see in Libya, I should say, we relate back to what happened in Egypt, a country where they have already kicked out their president, of course. But still, tens of thousands of Egyptians are rallying. They're keeping up the pressure on their military rulers to carry out the reforms they promised. They've been back in Tahrir Square, Liberation Square as it's known, in Cairo, demanding that things move faster under this military regime and that reforms are brought in. Just want to show you some recent pictures that we've got in from Libya, from Tobruk. This is a city which is, you would describe as being under control of opposition supporters, or anti-Gaddafi supporters, I should say. Good signs of celebrations on the street there, but as we've been speaking with our correspondent in the east of the country, there is still a lot of fear amongst the people there who don't know what an unpredictable man like Muammar Gaddafi and his regime could throw at them next. In the meantime, though, they celebrate in the streets. Despite the guns they're holding, they're in a happy state of mood there. That is the latest pictures from Tobruk. Half past the hour on Al Jazeera, these are the headlines. A defiant Muammar Gaddafi has appeared before his supporters in Tripoli's Green Square. Promising to fight till the end, the Libyan leader made it clear he had no intention of stepping down.
And when necessary, weapons depot will be opened for all the Libyans to be armed. All the tribe will be armed, so Libya will turn into a burning hell. I've come here to salute you, salute your courage, and tell you to reply to them. I'm here among the people, among the masses.
But in another part of the capital, militia loyal to the Libyan leader fired on pro-democracy protesters. Tripoli is Gaddafi's last stronghold. Security forces are fighting to win back control of Zawiya, which is just outside of the capital. Protests elsewhere in the region. This is Iraq, where several protesters died, in fact, in clashes with security forces during what they were calling a day of rage. People demonstrating over a lack of the basics in life: food, water, electricity and jobs. Basra's governor has already resigned in response to the protests. And Yemen too, protests going on there for a couple of weeks now. Friday prayers here turned again into mass protests in Yemen. Pro and anti-government groups have held rival rallies there. Rescue teams are continuing their search for earthquake survivors in New Zealand. Aftershocks and rain are hampering the operation. 113 people are known to have died, but some 200 are still missing. Hopes are fading of finding any more survivors. Irish voters have been casting their ballots in parliamentary elections. It is the country's first election since it got a $113 billion financial bailout in November. The economy is a major issue expected to influence voting patterns. With spiralling unemployment and rising inflation, some analysts say this election could spell the end of the current government. And French fashion house Christian Dior has suspended its creative director, John Galliano, after he was accused of assault. Galliano allegedly made anti-Semitic remarks and slapped a couple at a bar in Paris. Police say he was drunk at the time. They detained him temporarily. The British designer has been the head of Christian Dior for 14 years and was set to kick off Paris Fashion Week on Monday. Those are your headlines on Al Jazeera. Next, a collaboration between Al Jazeera English and YouTube. It is the Worldview interview with David Cameron. Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria and welcome to a special collaborative interview here on Al Jazeera between us and you. We're here in Muscat, the Omani capital, to speak to the UK's Prime Minister David Cameron. The only difference this time, though, is that you've submitted the questions. It's part of the YouTube Worldview program, where one world leader is interviewed every month and the questions are submitted through YouTube by you. A series of international and domestic policy questions, videos and texts, which we then put to David Cameron on your behalf. Prime Minister, thank you so much for your time. The format of our interview is we've got all the questions in from viewers around the world. They've sent in text questions, they've sent in video questions, and we've split it up into some foreign policy, some domestic policies. We hope to cover a nice broad range of things. First question, it's a video question, and it's, I think, very important at this moment. It's an international one. It's about the situation of the uprisings that we've seen in the Middle East. So let's have a look.
David, my question is this. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen civilians being killed and beaten in the streets in several Middle Eastern countries using weapons that were sold to them by British companies. And my question is, how do you justify going this week on a tour of North African and Middle Eastern countries with several representatives from weapons companies with the aim of selling those governments yet more weapons, which we know will probably be used against their civilian population?
So he's essentially asking, you're sending mixed messages about Britain's role in the Middle East?
Not at all. First of all, what I've been saying on this trip this week is the importance of supporting the aspirations of people in North African and Arab countries who want greater democracy, greater freedom, greater rights. That is why I started my trip in Cairo, in Egypt, meeting with the government, also meeting with the protesters and saying that I supported their aspirations and having discussions with that government to try and get them to focus on a proper transition to a real civilian government and genuine democracy in Egypt. On the issue